Welcome back to Armor Radio. Josh here with Armor Gym owner, serial entrepreneur, fitness guru. Am I leaving anything
I
out?
don't know about all that, but
Dusty, thank you for coming.
man, it's good to be here.
It's been a couple days.
It has.
Been a couple days. You've been busy.
I have busy
Well,
month.
Tennessee
Yeah, man,
has been busy.
they have.
As of this recording, tell me where you just, it was like yesterday or whatever, where
Yeah.
you got back from.
Omaha.
What happened in Omaha?
Went out and the Tennessee baseball team won their first national championship in program history. So, pretty monumental accomplishment and something I think that very well deserving for sure. And something that's kind of been brewing. You know, as fans, you've kind of felt it. Like we've gotten to Omaha the last 3 out of the 4 years and not had a ton of success there, but just the teams have been good, and it's just such a long season that you're like, man, will we have enough at the end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really cool to see the team pull through and bring something back to Knoxville that is, it's just a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. So I know, obviously, doing fitness for 22 years, know a lot about the athletics that go into it, but zero about baseball.
Yeah.
You know, coaching for 22 years, if not more, also, and you know a ton about the athletics that go into it, but you also know a ton about baseball.
Yeah.
That's why I thought this would be a perfect time.
Yeah, man.
To get to have a conversation about sort of what happened and what you saw, but tell me about how it went down. So you drove out.
Yeah. So me, my dad, Cam, my youngest son, and then Pops from the gym, we all drove out, and we waited until it was the championship series. So because the way it ends is it's a double elimination tournament until the very end.
Okay.
And then the two teams from each bracket, the two top teams from each or the top team from each bracket, they go into a championship playoff, best 2 out of 3 games.
So Tennessee and Texas A&M.
Texas A&M,
Okay.
yep. And so we drove out on Friday. Well, we drove out Thursday night, got there on Friday, and then watched the games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
And then tell me about the final game. It was a little.
Yeah, it was a nail biter for sure.
Yeah.
I had you on the edge of your seat at the end. I think even for both teams, you know, it's like because with the swing of a bat, the game could have easily it been tied or even them went up and you know been ahead. So Tennessee had a pretty good lead going into the last 2 innings. It was like 6-1, I think, and then they, you know, Texas A&M just they fought, man. They chipped away and got some runs back, and then I would honestly say, you know, in all my years of playing, coaching, and even watching baseball, I think that was 6 of the hardest outs that I've ever seen. Like the time in between each out, it seemed like forever.
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
as if we were ever going to get that next out, and the things that kind of transpired in between each out.
Yeah.
It was just it was a wild ride because the game ended 6-5.
And coming from somebody like you that's been baseball your entire life, I mean, that's big.
Yeah.
You have a frame of reference that's not like somebody like myself who doesn't really watch and then gets to come in at the end of the day. Like, you're there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't. I can't recall like, you know, I've seen it come down to the end. It's like it seems like the last out. It maybe takes some time, but it's like those 6 outs were just hard fought outs.
Okay.
And it was cool to just see both teams. You know, I think as a Vol fan, like I walked away from that the whole tournament. You know, obviously very excited because we won, but also you couldn't help but just really, I mean, commend the Texas A&M team for the way they fought.
For sure.
And they, you know, just didn't give up. And at the end, I think I heard in their press conference, you know, a few of their players saying, like, we believed until, like, the last swing of the bat. Like, we believed we could win the game. And I think that was definitely true, you know, in the way that they battled. It was like they never gave up. They never quit. They never felt like even at 6-1, like the game was over.
Oh, wow.
And so that's just cool. It's cool to see that mentality and just how they really kind of pulled together to keep just chipping away. And it wasn't because 5 runs, I mean, in baseball, that's a pretty big lead, you know. Yeah. So it would have been easy to look at that and think it's over, you know.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. So
yeah.
made
Now,
for
a lot of people are making a big deal out of the coach,
Yeah.
Tennessee football's coach, who, when he came along, I think is it 5 NCAA? He's got to 5 NCAA tournaments.
The baseball coach, Tony
Yeah,
Vitello?
yeah. Isn't that?
That's probably right. Yeah, I
There
think
was nothing before that, or am I reading that wrong? I feel like
no.
I read about that.
We definitely had a dry spell there where we weren't even getting into the tournament. I mean, I can remember years, where we were just fighting to try to get into the SEC tournament because not every single team in the conference even makes the SEC tournament, your conference tournament.
Okay.
So like the program had definitely it had went down to a very, very low level.
Yeah.
And then, kind of there was some coaching changes and went through a few coaches. And, I think 2018, I believe, was, I may have that wrong, 2017 or 2018 was his first year.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've been going and watching the games for years through the good and the bad. And I think, in 2021 is where I knew there was something different about the way that he was going about business, and the way that the teams were playing. They were obviously getting better, each year it was they get a little bit better and a little bit better. And but in 2021, that's when we got into the tournament and we were hosting the regionals in Knoxville.
Okay.
And the very first game, we were playing Wright State, and I think we all believe that's a game we should win, But we were down by 3 runs at the very end of the game. Going into our last at bat, we were down 3 runs, and I remember sitting there, and I think a lot of people could probably relate to this, but as a Tennessee fan, there has definitely been some times where you don't think that you think we're jinxed in some way. It's how are we going to figure out a way to blow this?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, in that moment thinking man, here we are. We've got we're hosting regionals and we're in the position that we want to be in, and we're going to drop this first game, and then it's really hard to battle back if you lose that first one.
Yeah.
And it came into the last at bat, and a player, Drew Gilbert, he came up with bases loaded and he hit a grand slam to walk it off, the end of game. And I think it was that moment where I really, really knew that there was something really special that Tony and the coaching staff was building, there. And it's just been one of those things that I think just kind of sent us on this trajectory of excellence, kind of brought us into more of the national spotlight, and then the way they recruit and the talent that they've been able to bring in. It's since then, every year the 2022 team, I mean, they some people would say, maybe the best team in history, and they just fell short in the regionals and didn't make it back to Omaha. But then they made it last year with a team that kind of struggled early on. But then they found their way, kind of near the middle end of the season, and then made it back to Omaha, won a game there. So it's the first time they went, they didn't win a game. The second time they go, they win one.
Okay.
And so then that sets us up for this year. And it's you kind of seen a lot of tendencies of the 2022 team. It's these guys were taking care of business, winning games. But I think the thing different is you saw this really unique unity in the team.
Okay.
And that there weren't, obviously there's players who they do certain things that kind of elevate them and people know them more, so they're kind of the superstars of the team. But it didn't feel that they ever made it about themselves. It was more about that they had a mission from day one, and that was to go win a national championship. And they weren't going to get caught up in their own, accolades and performances. It really still came back to how was the team doing and were they winning baseball games? And so I think that's the thing that I noticed and really thought this might be the team, that can take it all the way, just because of how unified they were, and some of the players, were guys that had come in as freshmen and maybe not been highly touted superstars, but they just worked and put in the effort and time and kind of serve their time to get to the the moment that where they were in the starting lineup or they were getting like significant playing time. So again, just kind of cool to see that when you have a goal and you set your mind to it and you're willing to just do the work and whatever it takes, how it was cool to see it happen. It to pay off, and
especially from your point of view, being there for that long and watching.
Yeah, and I mean, and knowing both sides of like the training and the baseball, and knowing like how important both of those are, and it's like what's going on in the field is that's kind of what everybody sees, but they don't see all this stuff that's going on in the weight room, and so I have a huge appreciation, for the way that they've been able to develop the players as they come in, and you see these guys come in, as freshmen, and then you look at them as juniors, and you're like, wow, it's
big difference.
Yeah, they're really the strength program and the strength coach there has just done a really excellent job of developing those guys and just helping them get to that level that they ultimately want to be at.
That's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I thought, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I read that the recruiting style of Tennessee's coach was to not, just kind of like what you said, to not go for superstars, to go for somebody who's going to be maybe the standout on the team, but to go for a whole bunch of just, and this is what I read, and I could totally be wrong, just blue collar, like grit and willing to do work. And like you said, at the end of a game, it's still not over. We still have guys getting ready to bat. Like, that's a big deal. Am I correct in that? Am I misstating that?
No, I think that's 100% correct. I think one of the big things is, for one, he's just so relational. Even I do not know him personally, but just as the way that I observe, he's just the guys are like, they're really bought into what they're trying to do, and they feel like he has their back, and obviously they have his. So there's this mutual, respect of, I'm going to give it everything I got, and then you're going to reciprocate that back to me. And I think that's just what's so different. He's so relational, and he doesn't try to, really force anything on them. It's been cool to see. I would say each team that he's had has had its own kind of unique little personality. It's like, because a few years ago, there were the team, people didn't like Tennessee because of the bat flips and all the different, the antics that they would do on the bases when they would, hit doubles, and just, they seemed arrogant. But I don't think that was really who they were. I think it's just, they had big personalities, and they were just, and he allowed them to, like, to be who they were. Yeah. And he even said, I think recently in a press conference, that it might have gotten a little bit out of control, but it still was like, more of just allowing those guys to, to be who they are, rather than like, kind of forcing them into this box. And he had said, that that's not really his style. He's kind of like a put your head down, do the work type guy, not flashy and, dancing and doing all this stuff. Sure. But, I think there's just a camaraderie that they've built, and every year, you kind of see like how that, and even last year, I would say last year was really cool because the team was underperforming significantly in 2023, and like you'd hear a lot of things about friction, between players, and friction between players and coaches, and things going on like behind closed doors that you could think like, man, there seems like maybe they're underperforming because of some dysfunction. Yeah. But then it was like they worked through that, and then they were able to maybe not necessarily come to a full agreement on how things are being done, but it was an understanding enough to where it was like, all right, we can pull together to to take care of business, to do what we're here to do. And so that was cool to see him, be able to battle through even just some adversity there, inside the clubhouse.
Sure.
I think it's just the interesting thing to me is just how relational that he is, and even to like the fan base, how he really tries to connect to people and really wants to be available, and to more or less show, I think, his appreciation for the support, that people have given. So
now you're obviously been a strength and conditioning coach for decades.
Yep.
But also you're a baseball coach.
Yep.
Okay, so when you go out there and you see these players, what are some features that you would look at and be like, this describes this sort of athlete that's on a winning team versus some of the other athletes that may have been left in previous games? Not Tennessee athletes, but even Texas A&M. I mean, they're right there with them. They made it up to the end. But what about some of the other teams that we may have put their season to rest? What do you see out of Tennessee, and then what can athletes do to maybe be more like that?
Well, I think one of the things that I see is like just body language. Of when,
Explain
because
that.
it's like, as a fan or somebody that maybe you don't personally know people, you're only left to kind of formulate your opinion of like,
For sure.
how you think their personality is, or how they are as a teammate.
But there's a big difference of me watching it, who doesn't coach baseball at all, and then you watching it, who not only coaches baseball but is a strength and conditioning coach that gets to, like you said, you get to see behind the curtain in every different language there is.
Yeah, and I think body language is just something that you look at when something happens that's positive. Like, how do they react? And then
is it like how they react to each other? Like, are you?
I'm
happy for your success?
Yeah,
or
both.
Is that kind of thing?
I think both. You kind of see how it is like individually, and then with other people, and then also you want to see like how do they act when they fail, and is there like this huge difference? Is it like a drop my head type thing and mope, and then let that kind of drag along? Do I take it? Do I walk back to the dugout with my head down, and then do I walk onto the field, on defense, like? Or do I move immediately right on, to the next? Do I put that behind me and move to the next play?
So I think that. So let me throw this out at you and see what you think of this, and tell me if this is how you coach this. I think it's How Champions Think. It's a book about golfing. I think it's Bob Rotello. I might be getting that wrong, but I believe he describes a circumstance where there's a reporter talking to, I believe it's Hogan. And he was talking about a putt that he missed, and he was like, "No, I didn't miss that." And the reporter keeps talking to him, and he's like, "No, I didn't miss that putt." And he swears up and down he didn't miss that putt, but he did.
Yeah.
So he's editing, and that's kind of what Rotel's talking about. He's editing the experience so that it doesn't get to him. Now, is that delusional? Or is that something that a superior athlete needs to do to be able to get by? Is that something that you recommend?
Yeah,
How do you use that?
I think superior athletes, like that's what makes them superior, is their ability to reframe whatever it is to spin it into a positive. Even if it's like, a bad scenario, you figure out, okay, this is what went wrong, and I'm going to make the correction so that doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm. And you say that you would watch for that in body language that the players have. If you made a mistake, if you made an error, is it head down, or is it like, okay, cool, just move on? Yeah,
and I think it's like tricky because it can swing, like dropping your head or pitching like a tantrum. Those are, I would say, more extreme, kind of scenarios. But you just want to watch like how quickly do they kind of regroup and get themselves back, focused, or is it something that they're still like thinking through in their mind? And then, because that's where I think it gets tricky, is because it's now bleeding over, and depending on what you're telling yourself in your brain, if it's negatives, well, the chances of you're probably getting ready to make another mistake.
So in Buddhism, I think you call that the second arrow. Like the first arrow hit you.
Yeah.
You didn't get out of the way. You got hit.
Right.
But the second arrow is you thinking about getting hit.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's coming. When you start thinking about it, it's coming. The law of attraction. And so it's like you've got to immediately be able to move past that and get back into that mindset of, all right, this is the correction I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Or
is that a process you teach when you go in to coach athletes on the field of play? Are you teaching like, hey man, here's going to be the bad, and this is how we're going to deal with it? Do you put a process together, or do you let it spiral into what it is and then coach it afterwards? Do you have a method?
Yeah, I try to talk to I'm coaching, younger kids now at this stage.
That's how we build them up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I try to talk to them about how baseball is a game it's built around failure. I mean, even the greatest baseball players of all time, they only got hits a third of the time. There's not many professions where you can go like be successful a third of the time and be considered among the greatest. And so that's baseball. Yeah. So you have to know going in, like 2/3 of the time, it's highly likely that you're going to fail.
Okay.
And so it's not that you have to just accept it, but you have to have the ability to move past it so that you don't let that linger over into the next at bat or the next ground ball or the next play. So just getting them to understand, if you're walking out here on the field every day and you're expecting to go 4 for 4, and hit 2 home runs and make no errors on defense, like, my friend, you have some long days ahead of you.
What do you teach as an expectation, or do you teach don't expect? Like, what is the process that you teach for that?
Well, I think it's just that you always have to be looking for the positives.
Okay.
So even in a situation where it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, rather than sitting and just thinking about where you messed up, I think it's think about what you could do different. Like, this is where what I should have done was I shouldn't have waited until I had 2 strikes, to really maybe bear down and get serious about hitting.
Okay.
Maybe, mindset wise, I just wasn't prepared when I stepped in the box. If you're putting yourself in a position where, like, as a hitter, you're hitting late in the count where you're always behind, you've got 2 strikes on you and you're having to battle back, well, chances are you're probably not going to get, really good pitches to hit. So you've got to be going in there looking to, looking for those pitches earlier in the count.
Got it. So you have to be good at immediate self-assessment, but then know how to flip the script into what I need to change instead of dwelling on the thing that I messed up on.
And I think too, the other thing about, I think really any sports, and honestly, I think in life, I think the more you think about it and the more you kind of fill up your mind with all these thoughts, I think your results just, they're trending down. We always say, in baseball, we say a full mind is an empty bat. So the more you're trying to think about what he's throwing, or where he's throwing it, or how fast he's throwing, or how the defense is playing, the more things that you start like going through in your head before you step into the box, your chances of actually being successful diminish, I think, with each thought.
Probably
so it's
transfers
like
to everything
you just
else.
Get in there and you're focused on one thing. I always had a quote that I told myself, and I had the quote in my hat, I think, from the time I was like maybe 10 years old until the very last day I played baseball at 21 years old. Mm-hmm. And it said, hit a good pitch, hit it hard, and hit it where it's pitched. So I wasn't focused on the type of pitch that it was that they were throwing, or even where they were throwing it. I was just looking for a pitch in the zone, and I was looking, to be able to barrel it up, like hit the pitch hard.
Yeah.
Hit a good pitch, hit it hard, and hit it where it's pitched.
Is that type of a mantra, like one word or one phrase or a sentence, is that what you teach younger athletes to quiet that monkey mind?
Yeah, I think it's big in chronic pain. Like I see that one a lot when.
Is that where you're just constantly focused on the pain? Like all you can hear?
And all the things, maybe all the diagnoses that you've been, maybe told, or all these things that, if you do this, this can happen. Like you're playing through all these
Don't deadlift ever again. Don't pick something up ever again.
Yeah, negative scenarios. Never deadlift.
Yeah.
I think every single time you tell yourself those things, you're just decreasing your ability to get better. And if it's pain or if it's sports and success, whatever it is, the negative things, like if you get the diagnosis, I think you have to figure out, like, okay, let's say I have degenerative disc disease or something like that. What you've got to do is, rather than think, because the world of like all these possibilities is so vast, like you can go down a million rabbit holes on it.
Yeah.
Or you can come back to the one thing that we know can improve it, slow it down, and that's strength training. And so, like, you could spend days, months, years on all these other things that are kind of popping up out here, or you can come back to the one thing that we know. It's like my boys, here they are at 12 and 9, okay? And they always hear me say, you know how you can fix that? Nutrition and exercise. And now when things pop up, they go, we know. Nutrition and exercise. Right. It's like, but it's not a lie, man. Right. If you sit and you look at all these things that we deal with, and I guarantee you, if you go look through the ways that you can improve it or reverse it, nutrition and exercise is going to be in that list.
Yeah, and probably sitting at the top. Yeah,
right.
Probably sitting at the top.
And so I think, that's where we get sidetracked on all the the possibilities, you know. And it's like it's almost like we want it to be complicated. It gives us an excuse to maybe not sexy. Do it. Yeah, totally. It's like, well, I have this, so I can't do that,
Yeah, to a million different protocols when it really.
And I think nothing will stop you in sports more than that mindset. And that's why I love sports, not just baseball, but any sport. It's like what you learn is you learn grit, you learn how to put in work and effort, and sometimes working for things that you're not going to see immediate return on. Like just because you go lift doesn't mean the next day you get muscles, or just because you go sprint doesn't mean tomorrow that you're faster. But it's this repetitive action of doing these hard things over and over and over, and how it builds this resiliency.
The two things you said there was you're taking action and it's repetitive, and I think that alone gets a lot of people. They don't. It's hard to take action. That's the hard part. The getting started is usually the hardest part. But then that it's repetitive is that a lot of people don't deal with the boredom a lot.
Yeah,
I've heard it said, and tell me what you think about this, that sports is learning how to publicly fail.
100%.
Yeah. Would you recommend that is one of the main highlights to get younger athletes involved in sports so that they can essentially learn how to process that emotion?
Yeah, because the majority of us, our kids are not going to be professional athletes, but that's not the point. The point isn't that you get them involved in sports just so that so hopefully they can be the next Tom Brady or the next, whoever.
Yeah.
The point is that you're teaching them that resiliency and how to win, and win with humility, and lose. And lose, and you need to feel what that it feels like to work hard and lose. Just because you work hard and you do all the things and check all the boxes doesn't mean you're going to win.
That's a hard life lesson right there.
It is, and you're going. The thing I tell my boys now is you are going to fail over and over and over and over again. And the thing is if that's all you get, if you fail and then you just stay there and you hold on to that, you'll never be a winner. Because winners are the ones that can fail and then move right on to the next day, and it doesn't deter them off of the path that they're headed on. That whatever the goal is it win a national championship? Is it, be the CEO, whatever it is. It's like you have to stay so focused on what your goal is that it doesn't matter how many times you fail. That you just have to keep regrouping and learn. It's not failing if you're learning. And I think that's I in life and as a coach on teams that I've coached where and even in business, it's like some of the greatest lessons and maybe turning points have always, it's not been in the victories, it's been in the failure. Where you've learned something that you're like, oh man, like, yeah, if we'd done this, then that would have had changed the outcome in a very significant way. So I think, I have definitely, there's not without a question learned way more from my failures than I ever, did from my successes. It's like you've set goals and you work hard for them, like years at goals. And in some of my biggest goals, when I've got there, it's never been as sweet as what I thought it would be. It's like you accomplish it and it's good. And you're glad you did it. But really where all the growth came from was in the journey, the journey there. And you staying so focused on whatever it was that you were trying to achieve, that's what you remember. You don't even really remember the end. Yeah. What you remember is the journey, to get there. And so I think that's also too, I think, is not being so focused on outcome focused. Just that's how you determine whether it's successful or not, is just based on its outcome. Because I think that can be, it's skewed, just because you get good outcome doesn't necessarily mean that you did it right.
Again, when I hear for younger athletes, I think it's arguably it's a little easier to get them coached up into that. They're younger, they're a little bit more malleable. We can do that. What if I'm 30-some years old and I've never really taken that step? What would you say to that athlete, that person that's still scared to death of failure, of messing up, just unwilling to get started because what could go wrong?
Well, I think that's what you have to ask yourself. Are you sick? Are you tired of like the position that you're in?
So you have to qualify.
You have
your
to
current
get fed
situation.
up with it.
Okay.
Like, yeah. I mean, because if you're not, it's not going to matter. Like you have to get so fed up with where you're at and like the situation that you're in, or like the decisions that you've made, that you're willing to like look at it differently. Okay, like, are you happy with where you're at? No, sucks. Okay, well, are you willing to change like the way you're approaching it? And if the answer is no, then okay,
stay where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, just hopefully it works out. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I think, or you're willing to like embrace this kind of new way of thinking of not being so maybe like outcome focused, or maybe it's like that you're just selfish. We're all selfish, but and I don't know of many things, I don't even know of anything really where it is just about you. Like there's very few things that you can do and do it at a high level where you're not going to need support,
Sure.
So it's like, you got to be a good teammate. You have to be, there has to be a willingness there. And it's okay to like, you want to focus on being the best you can be, but the goal of that is that it makes the unit better. It's like, if I'm the left fielder, like I want to be the very best left fielder in the game. But if I do that, and then the center fielder, he's got that same mindset, and the catcher has that same mindset, we're going to be a crazy good team because everybody is focused on being the best of themselves, And so I think that's, it's really important that everybody, it's okay, like be the best version of yourself, but be the best version of yourself because it raises the level of everybody around you, and it makes the team or the unit, better.
Yeah.
That's why, like, my leadership style, and this, is like, I'm like a get in the trenches type, like, guy. I like to do the things, I don't like to see like just the like the 100-foot view.
Yeah.
Like I want to be in it. I want to feel it. I want to feel the same things that everybody else is feeling.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to know that I want to be relatable. You know. So that's just something that I really try to do. And maybe I miss out on some of the things that that people in my position could be doing, like meetings and all this, like,
Sure.
rah, of just trying to get everybody there. Or I could just get out there and do it and then let that like overflow into everybody else, And so that's kind of like, I just try to be the best version of me that I can be, and then support everybody, around me to help give them the tools, that they need to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you go, dang, we're pretty good,
as a team.
As a team. And that's what it's like. If you're the best and I'm the best, like together,
pretty good team.
We do pretty good. We do some pretty good things, and we know our lanes,
Yeah, very true.
So I think that's I think it's something, to be important, and it's just important not to get, in the mindset of where you make it about yourself. I think good teams, and I think from what I've observed of that national championship team, they may say differently, but as an outsider looking in, I haven't seen a better group of individuals that embody, people pulling together and all having the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there's some guys on that team that the season did not go the way they mapped it out, but they knew they needed to step into different roles to allow other people to do things. And it's but had they not done that, the team wouldn't have accomplished what they needed, they could accomplish. I think that's the unselfishness that you see. And if you paid any attention to that season, and really even just this last series, and you didn't notice that, I think you missed the mark on really what a good team looks like. And there's you get the all tournaments and the MVP and all those things are great. Like those, it's cool for those performances. But at the end of the day, it's man, the goal was to leave Omaha with a championship. And I saw a really cool picture, and I think it put it all into perspective. But at the College World Series, there's 8 teams that start, and all of them have their flags, like they fly the flags.
Yes.
And the American flags are out in the middle. And so there's 4 teams on each side.
Okay.
As a team gets eliminated, the flag, they drop it to half mast.
Okay.
And so when it's all done, there's one flag that's flying.
Oh, wow.
At full mast, and that's the champion. Yeah. And so it was a really cool visual, of just the battle, But I mean, we're not in the College World Series, but every day we are in a battle, and it's all about supporting each other, and sometimes it's encouraging, and sometimes it's saying, hey, you do this better. I mean, I have 100% done that with you, and a lot of things since I've known you is you do a lot of things a lot better than I do. And so I just get out of the way and let you play to your strengths.
Well, like you said, we're good at staying in our lanes.
And I think that's what's allowed us to be able to accomplish what we've accomplished today, is just because I don't write the emails because I suck at writing. And there's, train the coaches. You are just so much better at those things. And so, and I could go through the list and name all these people that have, do things within this organization. And it's man, every day I think we're going out and playing for a national championship and trying to save people's lives, And if we started going around and getting the testimonials of the impacts, then I think it would put it all into perspective for us of kind of the opportunity. And as a coaches, if you're a coach and you're listening to this, I think that's no matter what it is that you're doing, it's I think you have to go back and remind yourself of what's your purpose? What is it that you're trying to do? I mean, we need to make money to survive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it's not that can't be your reason, you know. It's
Yeah.
because it's not enough. There's no end to that. So
Winners, no, what was it? Winners are the ones that fail and keep moving on.
yeah,
I think that's
I
what
think
people
that's
need to hear more of.
yeah,
I think
man.
we leave it there.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Tessie, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.